Hey, what is up, everybody? It is your boy Evan Trevino coming to you with another video. So in this video, I wanted to talk about the Trump administration trying to get junk food out of EBTs, trying to get it out of SNAP, right? It's the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. We need to be assisting in nutrition for people. So, we're going to go ahead and cover the news and talk about some little factoids that revolve around this issue. But before we do that, please help your boy out, man. I need a subscription. I need a like. I need a comment. I need all of that from y'all. If you could do that for me, you would make my whole week, man. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. So, we're going to start off with this short little coverage from Fox Business. I am a Fox Business enjoyer. I do think that normal Fox sometimes, he falls into that echo chamber sort of territory. But Fox Business is a bit more economically sounded, and I like it,
Food stamp recipients are suing the USDA after new restrictions limit what they can buy with taxpayer-funded benefits. The policy blocks purchases of things like candy, soda, and energy drinks through the SNAP program. The Trump administration says if taxpayers are footing the food bill, then junk shouldn't be on the menu. Steve Forbes, what do you say?
Well, as one who has an affection for junk food, I don't believe taxpayers should support my habit or of anyone else. And
as a fellow big back, I will say I do enjoy me some some fast food, some junk food. There's a reason why they call it soul food, right? It's not good for your body, but it's great for the soul. Look, man, my opinion on this has changed over time. I used to be in the more classical liberal libertarian sort of view of this, where it's like, well, we've already decided these people deserve money for food, and if they choose to shoot themselves in the foot by getting diabetes and losing that foot, that's their choice, right? You need to allow people to fail. But my opinion of that has actually shifted over time. One thing that changed it for me was children, right? Because these kids that are getting this SNAP food money and their parents are going and buying junk food for them, they have no control over that, right? They don't cook for themselves. You're having a lot of kids that are on SNAP get fat because of their parents' bad choices. And then the other piece of it is that when it comes to healthcare costs increase for everybody when everyone is more unhealthy, even outside of socialized healthcare, even in private healthcare, because they have to raise premiums to take care of these people that are chronically going in, and you're going to be in more often if you're obese. So I think it is a net positive for all of society if your food habits, improve. So that's the reason why I've kind of shifted away from this, like, let every man fail, to no, if this is a government program and we're aiming for a specific outcome, we should be expedient in trying to achieve that outcome. And I think this is a great way to do it.
the old saying, he who has the gold makes the rules. He who's providing the food makes the rules on what you can buy with that food. It doesn't prevent you from going out and buying this other stuff. It just means the taxpayer isn't going to pay for it. Right. I think it's quite a presumption. And when we used to have courts that functioned and made decisions quickly, this would have been thrown out as soon as it arrived. But now it'll take months and months and a lot of lawyers' fees.
What's funny to me, Jackie, is we call it SNAP. We need to be reminded that is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's not free food for everyone. It's supplemental nutrition. So if you need nutrition and you need to supplement help in terms of buying that, that's really what this is for.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because I think that's the most important part that people forget. And I don't take sort of a libertarian view on this, where you should be able to use your SNAP benefits to buy anything you want, and that it's up to the consumer to make those choices. As you said, Taylor, if you need that kind of help, you need nutritional help, the government is offering it to you, but then it needs to be good nutrition. We're talking about taking soda, energy drinks, and candy off of the docket here. Those are not fundamental. Those are supplementary, like, those are the extras. Those are the treats. It's not your meat and vegetables, and fruit. So I think that's important to note. But what I find interesting about the suit that's being brought here specifically is that the plaintiff is claiming that her daughter has a restrictive food intake disorder, and that she can only consume safely certain types of food, presumably.
My daughter has an eating disorder. You don't understand, Judge. She can only eat Twinkies and chicken nuggets. Oh, wow, bro. You don't understand, Judge. She will die without the Kool-Aid. No, I can't buy the pouch that says less sugar. Like, I just think that's such a cope. Saying that your daughter has a specific sort of nutrient deficiency, I imagine there is some realm of possibility that you can buy natural, healthy foods that fall within your child's diet. I don't believe for a second that banning junk food specifically is going to lead to your child going without.
In this lawsuit, she's claiming that the kinds of foods that she would want wouldn't be available to her any longer because of these restrictions. And so I find it difficult to believe if a person has this kind of disorder that energy drinks, soda, and candy would be what you would be feeding them, you know.
It's like everything I say gets repeated. I swear I didn't watch this. Yo, that's funny, man. We're in sync. We're in sync.
I would have to really dig into it more to understand what they're claiming, but it seems to me like a little bit of a stretch. And so I'm curious to see how this plays out in court and what ends up happening.
Maybe a 6-year-old wrote that suit. You know, I want candy.
Yeah, I need the candy to live, Mama. But Dagan, but, what if someone comes in and says, the next administration, they want to define what food is. They say, oh no, you said you can't use it towards food and candy. Now we're going to change it because the science says this. And we all learned during COVID, the science has interesting definitions. How do you prevent more government overreach by telling you what you can or cannot do with taxpayer funding?
So let's look at this for a second, right? So you have $100 billion total per year going towards SNAP benefits, and you have 42 million Americans that are being served this. And of that 42, 20% of all their purchases is soda, candy, snacks, and sugar. Now, I'm not even necessarily against them buying sugar, you know, like cane grounded sugar, because you could use that in some of your cooking. But I think that soda and candy and even most snacks, people can say you're not going to starve without. Cooking really is a lost art, man. A lot of people aren't cooking like that. I wasn't really cooking like that. I'm kind of been shuffling it off to my brother who lives with me. But I recently got into cooking more. I've been cooking a lot of chicken breasts. I've been cooking a lot of rice, taking better care of myself, you know. I'm already banged up, man. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm not going to get much better in that department, so I might as well be upkeeping what I can, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, look at these numbers. It's insane to me. It's insane to me.
Money versus the government, I guess, staying out of the way, the libertarian view that Jackie said she didn't want to take.
The procedure needs to be changed. The process with which you change the dietary guidelines that SNAP must follow needs to be changed. And that's what the argument is in this lawsuit. It involves just 5 states, Colorado, Iowa, Nebraska, Tennessee, and West Virginia. So there were 22 states that were granted waivers by the Department of Agriculture that would allowing them to bar participants from using the benefits to buy the candies and the sodas, prepared desserts, and the like. The lawsuit argues that it essentially does not follow the correct path, that the administration did not have the authority. There's a passage in the Food and Nutrition Act which allows SNAP to develop pilot programs to test changes that would, quote, increase the efficiency of SNAP and improve the delivery of benefits.
I hate red tape, bro. I hate red tape. It gets in the way of everything. Every time the administration wants to do something that would be revolutionary for Americans and would improve life, we get in the way of ourselves and our own progress. The bureaucracy is astounding, and how it stops everything, bro. The Lightspeed rail here in California, man. You know how much red tape has prevented any progress, any track from being laid? It's kind of like beating a dead horse at this point, but it's just another example of the failures of institutions. We really get in the way of our own progress. It's so upsetting, man.
Disallowing foods does neither. That's according to the lawsuit. And there's also an Administrative Procedure Act violation that it cites, which has been used in prior lawsuits. But this goes back to the language that governs the program. If you don't like it, then it's up to the people in Washington to change that. But I will note that in previous decades, the Department of Agriculture considered and rejected efforts for waivers. I believe even during President Trump's first term, because they didn't want to get big food big mad.
First off, she was waiting to say that shit. She's been waiting the whole day, had it in her back pocket. She was like, big food, big mad. You feel good about that? Think that's funny? Anywho, so I do think that there's a lot of truth to that as well. In the first administration, you didn't see as much nutritional regulations being shifted around and being meddled with. And that's mostly because you don't want to kick the hornet's nest, especially when you need to run up for re-election. But in the second term, you see it historically with most presidents. Their second term is where they really ball out and like try to get as much done as they can. So definitely a truth nuke, but I'm gonna spare you from the rest of this. The other thing I wanted to talk about with this, because you already get the idea, the SNAP recipients are suing USDA over the bans on junk food, and I just wanted to talk about this, a little fact that I always bring up whenever we're talking about SNAP. So, study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Low-income supplemental nutrition assistance program participation is related to adiposity and metabolic risk factors. To break it down in layman's terms, you are more likely to be obese if you're on SNAP. It's just a fact. It's 58% more likely if you are on SNAP that you are going to end up obese. Isn't that some shit? The supplemental nutrition assistance program is making people more unhealthy. That's not a stockpile of nutrition. That's not a gut filled with vitamins, you feel me? Oh, Lord. It is just so bad. And I would even go as far as to say that, especially when it involves children, it errs on the side of child abuse. These kids don't have a choice in their diets. You're getting money from the government, in many cases, only because you have those children, and you're poisoning them. It's so insane to me. It's so sad to me. And those habits carry on, right? That carries on the rest of their life. So I think this is a step in the right direction for the administration. We've been taking a lot of fair criticism in a lot of different areas, but I do think that everyone can agree, everyone with a clear state of mind, anyone that's normal can agree that being more obese on SNAP is ridiculous, and this is a necessary change that needs to happen. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. Anyways, this was the video. Hope you found it informative. I'm Evan, and I'm out. Peace.